Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to you and welcome to the latest in our series of new Arab debates, coming to you this time from the West Bank city of Ramallah. One more round of talks between the Palestinians and Israelis has come and gone. One more missed deadline for a deal to add to all the other missed deadlines over so many years. Is there a point in continuing? Should the Palestinians simply pursue their own ambitions for statehood through the UN and recognition from other international bodies? Or, as President Abbas has said on several occasions, hand the keys over to Israel with the message, "You're the occupier, you take full responsibility." Alternatively, are talks, any talks, however slow and painful, still worth pursuing? Can either side really afford to sever contact when so many lives are at stake? These are the questions we hope to answer as we debate the motion. For now, peace talks with Israel are pointless. Before we came on air, we took a vote among our studio audience. We'll take another vote at the end of the debate. We'll then compare the two and see to what extent, if any, our speakers have been able to change your mind. Let me introduce them. Speaking for the motion, Mamdouh Akka, a physician and for 2 years in the 90s, a Palestinian peace negotiator. He's active in the human rights field and is a member of the Palestinian Independent Commission for Human Rights. Against the motion, Munib al-Masri, Palestinian businessman and philanthropist. He was a minister in Yasser Arafat's first government and the founder of Padico, the largest private employer in the Palestinian territories. He also runs a family foundation that has given substantial support to the arts and education. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our panel. Mamdouh Akka, you're speaking for the motion. You say peace talks now are pointless, but you know full well that the conflict between the Palestinians and Israelis ends at a negotiating table. Why delay that inevitable end?
Yes, as you rightly put it, for now, negotiations are pointless. And I even dare to say that it will be disastrous.
So it's just a tool that you pick up when you feel like it and you drop it when you don't feel like it?
Not because we like it or not like it. Negotiations is just a it's just a tool to achieve a goal. If you go through negotiations in our case, for almost 23 years, to no avail, on the contrary, we are witnessing that the occupation is entrenched more and more, deepening more and more. We are losing more land. The settlements are expanding every day. All of this, witnessing it while we are going into negotiations after negotiations.
But you say to no avail. An American official said, over the last 9 months, behind closed doors, I've witnessed Palestinians and Israelis engaging in serious and intensive negotiations. Is that not an achievement? Is that not something to build on? Why throw that away, that intensive engagement?
Intensive engagement is something, and getting results is something else. Because at the end of the day, the criteria to judge whether these negotiations are worth continuing or not is how much these negotiations are leading us towards independence, towards ending the occupation.
But you can't know that until you get to the end of the road, or you explore and explore to the full every effort to get to the end of that road.
Allow me to disagree on this, because even when the roadmap was announced in 2003, there were some stations. You start by this, then that third step, but eventually you should know that eventually this occupation has to come to an end. But to go without having an end of this game, it will be futile.
Look, Dr. Akka, things may be bad when you're talking. They may have disappointed you with the results. But if there's no talking, you know what happens in the Middle East when there's no talking. There's a vacuum and things get bad and dramatically worse. The danger of violence and further instability is very much increased when the two sides are not talking to each other.
I agree that there should be no vacuum, but the vacuum should not necessarily be filled by violence.
But you're creating the vacuum, aren't you, by saying, well, we're not going to have peace talks now. That creates the vacuum.
I may agree that if we say that only through negotiations we are going to deal with this occupation, then once the negotiations fail or stop at one stage, then it is, we have a problem that there will be vacuum. But negotiations has to be taken as a tool, just a tool within a comprehensive strategy. So if negotiations at one stage is, there is an impasse, then you have to activate all other means. And we have many other means, but unfortunately, the way we conducted our negotiations led us to make it, even announce it, which is a mistake. Tactically, I believe it is a mistake that announcing it day and night that we only have the options to negotiate. No, we don't have just one option. And if you tell your adversary that you have only one option, then you are doomed.
Well, you're not telling him you've got one option, but I'm puzzled about one thing. You're a doctor, and here you are trying to turn off the life support machine while the patient is still alive and has a chance of getting better. And you want to turn off that life support machine. I
disagree with this, because I'm not turning the life machine off. I want to treat that patient in a different way. Because when one way of management fails or there is an impasse, I should use my brain and resort to other methods.
But a large number of Palestinians want the talks to continue. Let's look at the polls published early June from the Arab World for Research and Development. 50% support a resumption of talks between the Palestinian Authority and Israel. A further 67% support a return to negotiations if the fourth round of prisoner releases takes place and settlement building is frozen. So there is a large number of people in this region who want the talks to continue, and you say, no, I can't be bothered anymore.
No, I can't say this. What I said that negotiations under the terms of reference, and as you mentioned, these polls say that if the settlements are, building settlements is frozen, if the settlers are released, if there are certain requirements for negotiations to make it.
But there's 50% who want the talks anyway.
I don't know.
Whether the settlements are frozen or whether the prisoners are released, they still want it. They still want the talks to continue.
They have the right.
Don't they have a right?
Yes, of course they have the right to say this. But at the same time, what I'm arguing about is that we have to use our brain. And the analogy of a medical case you just said is quite appropriate. If this patient under my care is not getting any better and I'm not getting anywhere with him, then I have to reconsider. Maybe my method is wrong. Maybe the management is wrong. Maybe the diagnosis is wrong.
But your route leads the way open to further violence and further instability by creating a vacuum. A vacuum where there are no talks. And as I said before, you know this better than I do. A vacuum always leads to a worse situation.
Yes, and this is one of our...
And you accept that.
And I don't accept that necessarily that this vacuum or the stopping of the negotiations will lead to violence. Not necessarily, because, and this is one of our mistakes, the way we conducted negotiations. We should have a full range of strategy, of options. So we will not allow violence to be the only other alternative.
As if you can stop it. You haven't been so successful in stopping it in the past, have you?
It was stopped. At one stage, it went into lawlessness. Yes, I agree. And this is why every party, not only us Palestinians, we should not let things go into violence. But there are many other non-violent methods. Right. We can resist, not necessarily by violent means. We are entitled to resist. We are entitled to go to international law.
A third of your population still holds out armed resistance. That's to say, violence as the best way of getting a peace deal.
I think
so the violence is just below the surface in the Palestinian territories, isn't it?
It is, but at the same time, we have to remember that
and you're risking it, and you're risking a return to violence.
It is risk, but at the same time, I think we Palestinians are getting more mature.
You think the risk is worth it?
No, not the risk is worth it. We have to see into it that we should not fall into violence.
All right, Mamdouh Alaka, I have to stop you there. Thank you very much indeed. Munib Al-Masri, yes, you believe that the talks should continue now. What's the point?
First, I must agree with Mamdouh in many ways he said, in many things he said. For negotiations, you need three important things. One, terms of reference. Second, you must need a mediator. Thirdly, you must have a time frame. You cannot negotiate for something.
But you support the talks. You support the resumption of the talks.
No, I support it.
Now.
No, of
course.
course.
That's the side you chose to sit on.
No, you told me this, but I could defend it. But these talks must mean something. They must end to something. In the street, in Palestine, this business of resuming talks.
So perhaps you should be on the other side of the debate.
I should be because no.
So you're here under false pretenses.
Because I've been for 50 years. I've been trying to negotiate with the Israelis. I haven't found yet the partner. What we need to do.
The Israelis say exactly the same thing. The Israelis say exactly the same thing. They don't have a partner.
But you must talk to the people who've been mediators. All the mediators thought that the Israelis were at fault.
Well, let's deal with the current situation. You have a so-called unity government now between Fatah and Hamas. And you knew that if you had the unity government, that the Israelis would not talk to you. They made that perfectly clear. So you ruled out any talks simply by doing that, didn't you?
No, I will tell you.
Perhaps that was the aim of it.
No.
To rule out the talks and then blame it on the Israelis.
Not at all. I think in the contrary. I think unity government is the best thing Israel could have. Because in unity, you have clean up your house, you have one voice, you have one leader, you have one legitimate government. I will say to the Israelis,
but you know that it rules out talks.
No.
Prime Minister Netanyahu said it.
Well, that's him.
The state of Israel will not conduct diplomatic negotiations with the Palestinian government backed by Hamas, a terrorist organization that calls for the destruction of Israel.
Yes, but on the other side, he says, with whom shall I talk? The country is divided. Shall I talk to Hamas or shall I talk to
No, he said make a choice. To the Palestinian Authority. He said make a choice. It's either Hamas or talk to us.
Contradict himself. Hamas first. I must put the Palestinian house in order. And this is very important for our independence. Hamas are decent people. They have the right to resist. They have the right to resist occupation because Israel is not giving us anything.
They are dead set against talks with Israel. Hamas.
No, they're not. They're not. If you listen, I was with Mr. Mishal in 2011 in Cairo, and I think Mamdouh was there on the 4th of May 2011. He said three things, Tim. He said, I will recognize the borders of 1967. I will ask Mr. Abbas to negotiate, to keep negotiations. And thirdly, the rockets and other things, it will be in the hands of the government. Wake up, Israel, wake up. We did everything. We don't have an Israeli partner. We need
You did everything. Mahmoud Zahar earlier this year from Hamas has said there's no point talking to Israel.
But because till now,
Hamas spokesmen have said there's no point talking.
We've been talking,
repeatedly said there is no point.
The Oslo Accord 1999 said
Israel is immune to pressure. Zahar said it. Israel is immune to outside pressure.
He's right.
So why do you want to continue the talks?
Because I want to show the world and to show myself that I did everything I can, because there are a lot of Israelis who want talks. They want to live with us. We want to live.
So tell me the benefit of these talks then.
That's what I said. I need.
You're talking to yourself. If Israel has already ruled out talks with you now.
What happened to the mediator who was here just a few months ago? You ask him, what happened? Why did he quit mediating? Because he saw one side does not want to talk.
Saab Erekat said Israel never gave the negotiations a chance to succeed. So I come back to you. The play has flopped. Okay, the audience has gone home. Why bring the same actors back and try and go through the same thing again when you know it doesn't work?
Because our Palestinians, our martyr, our hero, Mr. Arafat, said we must talk until we find the peace of the brave.
You told the national newspaper in April the 12th this year. You said that the latest round of talks sponsored by US Secretary of State Kerry were a last chance. You said it was a last chance. You said, I see a big tsunami coming, a volcano, and people have to realize that enough is enough. We have an opportunity with Obama and Kerry, Abbas and Netanyahu. You were wrong, weren't you? You didn't have the opportunity.
No, we did. the partner, Israeli partner, we thought that he's a partner. He's not partner anymore.
Don't you just keep on talking and pretending to talk just to get the support from the European Union and the money from other donors? Isn't this just a cynical exercise?
Not at all.
Just to keep the money coming in, isn't it? Because the money is designed to support a move towards a settlement, a just and lasting settlement.
No,
if you don't talk, you don't get the money.
What I want.
It's a cynical exercise,
I want a Palestinian state, 67 border. I want East Jerusalem. I want everything Arafat set us to do.
And
what Mr. Abbas is doing.
You really think if you got an agreement that the other Arab states would back it?
If we get, of course.
What do you mean, of course? I mean, they've never agreed on anything, have they?
Look. In 2000,
the full number of Arab states never agrees on anything.
In 1981, it was the Fahd plan, the Saudi plan, to make peace with Israel. And it was adopted in Fez. It was adopted again in Beirut 2002. So the Arabs and Islamic states will recognize and they will recognize.
And that was the last time they agreed on anything.
And normalization.
And that was the last time they agreed on anything.
No.
You have the Arab League meetings, half of them don't turn up to the meetings. Half of them don't even go to the meetings.
The hearts of the people is with the Palestinian problem. They all united when it comes to the Palestinian problem. We have the Arabs, we are very proud.
And you've always complained that Arab support was not there when you needed it.
No, it is there. It is there. The Arabs are supportive, especially the Arab public. Even the government, they are very supportive.
But your major donor is still the EU.
Well, the major donors, I wish
all those rich Gulf countries, what have they contributed to you?
They will chip in. They will chip in.
Until then, it's the EU. Then it's the EU, your largest donor.
We're going to make a reconstruction.
You found out where your friends are.
In Gaza, we're going to do a reconstruction program for Gaza, an investment conference in Gaza, and where you see the Arabs they put $6 billion when they met in Sharm el-Sheikh, and they will do it. The Arabs will do it.
You hope.
No.
We're going to leave it there for the moment, give the audience a chance to discuss some of the issues that we've raised so far. The motion is for now, peace talks with Israel are pointless. If you have a question, please raise your hands and we'll get a microphone to you. There's a lady towards the back.
You said that there are 50% of Palestinian people that don't want these negotiations because they've seen their families dying in front of them. Did any of your family died in front of you? No. How can you say that you want negotiation? And we all know that Israelis are taking life with or without these negotiations, and we saw them. And we saw Israeli.
Okay, listen to me. When Mr. Abbas made a deal for the prisoners, he said, I give 9 months for the release of the prisoners who are our heroes. So he gave 9 months for this thing. Israel, at the end of the day, they didn't do it. So we said, no more negotiations. We stopped negotiations. So we are stopping negotiations now until we find out that Israel will abide with what we want. They reneged on the negotiations. I said we have a terms of reference, and the terms of reference have to be adhered to and with a time frame. We did the time frame, so Mazen, the president, said no more negotiation. And we stopped, and I was in this big meeting with the leadership, and we took the decision to go to 15 agencies to say to them to put Israel in the situation that we have other alternatives. We want to do everything, to do everything we can to do it.
Okay, let me just go back to the question. Can I ask you, under what circumstances would you support resuming talks with Israel? Under what circumstances?
If Israel doesn't want anything, she doesn't want anything. If we go and negotiate with her, she go and kill people from us. So we have to go and ask.
You don't want any talks under any circumstances.
We have to go and ask Israeli what they want to do. I really want to go and ask Israeli people, do you want us to go from our land? Please, I really want to know what they want. I really want to know. They don't want negotiation. They want us out of their land, as they say. So I really don't know what we have to go unless
Mamdouh Aka, you negotiated with the Israelis for 2 years. Can you tell her what the Israelis want?
Actually, for 2 years, when I was a member of the Palestinian delegation that was headed by the late Dr. Haidar Abdel Shafi, there was a definite terms of reference. We put it that, first of all, they have to accept and to acknowledge that the occupied territories are occupied, and they are applicable, the Geneva Conventions are applicable, one thing. The other thing, they have to freeze settlements. Freezing settlements was the single most important thing that either to make a deal or break it. And I bear to differ with my friend Abu Rabih when he said that the last round of negotiations for 9 months, there was a term of reference. Unfortunately, and this was a terrible mistake, a disastrous mistake, there was no term of reference.
There was 9 months. There was 9 months given for this.
That was a time frame, but not a term of reference. A time frame, but without a term of reference. The issue of the prisoners, that was outside. That was outside the real term of reference should be freezing the settlements. And at the end of the game, that we should have ending the occupation and have our independence.
I'm going to move on to a lady close to the back there. If we could get a microphone to her, please.
In general, negotiations precedes signing agreements. And you signed Oslo and Paris. So what you are you signed Paris and Oslo, okay? So what are you negotiating for 20 years? Is it the end situation? And you know Israel said that we won't discuss the end situation. So what are we negotiating?
I was not part of Paris or Oslo. I was outside this thing, and I didn't like Oslo.
The Palestinian Authority.
I didn't like Oslo. I'm not part of the Palestinian Authority, but I support the president.
But you were a minister in Arafat's government.
I was, yes, minister in Arafat government, and I believed in this.
She's talking about collective responsibility, yes, aren't you?
I stayed only for 3 days, and I left. Yeah.
The question was something else. Do you want to repeat your question? Because I don't think he's answered it.
What?
Negotiations precedes signing agreements. So the Palestinian Authority signed in Oslo and Paris. They got the signal, the signing. So what do we negotiate now? For what? For the end situation? Israel said we won't discuss the end situation. So what are we negotiating?
I hope if we stick together, if our house kept together, us and Gaza and this thing, we will show the world that we have the right with the thing.
It's a big if, isn't it?
No, not
it's a big if.
We will do everything we can to compel Israel to come to the table.
Seriously, Munibal,
yes.
What are the chances of this unity government staying together? I mean, these reconciliation attempts have happened so many times before, and it's always fallen apart.
It's not right.
What are the chances?
No, this chances it's time to do it because they know we have a common enemy, which is Israel. We have to unite to get rid of occupation.
I want to just maybe ask the audience, you know, for a show of hands, whether they think this unity government is going to last. Can you just, if you think it's going to last, if you think that reconciliation is successful, would you put up your hands, please? So there are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, very few. If you don't think it's going to last, what do you? A few more. All right, we'll take a question from the lady here.
When you talk about the vacuum, and I am so saddened that, because I know Dr. Mamdouh before Oslo, during the first Intifada, and I witnessed him on ABC News in the middle of the Intifada, and you were so strong. Now look at Oslo, what it did to us. You are not even have the courage to talk. You're talking about violence. You're not talking about the people's right to resist. I'm saddened. My question to Munib
let Mamdouh Aka answer that. I mean, you made a point to him.
Maybe you did not hear me when I said that negotiations should be just one element of a comprehensive strategy.
No,
one major component of this strategy is to resist. And one thing. The other thing is to resort to international law. A third component is to use the BDS, boycott, divestment, and sanctions against Israel. We have a lot of assets. What happened with the negotiations is that we just set aside all our assets and our points of strength, and we resorted only to negotiations. And I said this is a strategic mistake and a tactical mistake. Strategic mistake because we have a lot of assets, a lot of points of strength that we did not utilize. And not necessarily resorting to violence. Resistance does not equal violence. And this is one point which I wanted really to elaborate. The vacuum is not there because Israel is filling all the vacuum. The occupation itself is violence. What the settlers are doing...
talking about a negotiating vacuum.
Negotiating vacuum, but the life is not only negotiations. Life is going on. What we are witnessing on daily basis is the violence of the occupation.
But it's only negotiations that will end this conflict, isn't it?
Eventually.
You accept that?
Eventually. Every liberation, I agree that every liberation, national liberation movement, eventually they sat on the table. But the art of negotiations is when to negotiate, when not to negotiate, how to negotiate, where to negotiate, on what terms to negotiate. Now we are negotiating on terms of the Israeli terms. When you negotiate on the terms of your adversary, you are doomed. You are going to surrender.
All right, you had a question, please.
My question to Mr. Munib al-Masri. You said that you put 3 conditions, but you still are a member. You are a member of the لجنة التواصل مع المجتمع الإسرائيلي, the committee for communicating with the Israeli people. Have you actually reached any tangible results with this?
No.
The majority. So why you're doing it?
I'm very frustrated because I don't see anything. But the leadership, I'm part of the leadership, I'm part of the PLO council, and we took a decision to continue to do this. All of us took the decision.
I'm sorry, who are you to take a decision? This is my question.
Well,
you lost your legitimacy. Not you, the PA, everybody in the leadership lost their legitimacy. When you say in our names that you're doing this, in our names, we're telling you, you are not speaking on our behalf.
Well, I wish you express this, but the PLO, if you like it or not like it.
What PLO? The PLO members are taking their salaries from the PA, which is supposed to be a tool for under the PLO.
All right, okay.
I don't take salary, but PLO is the thing that brought you here and brought me here. We have to respect the martyrs, we have to respect Mr. Arafat, we have to respect everybody who worked for the PLO to bring us here together.
All right.
This is our umbrella.
Muniba
This is our legitimate
Muniba Mazri.
things.
We're going to move on. Question in the front row, please.
I have been following the Israeli side, not the Palestinian side, during my study and in my work. If we go to the Israeli government, the coalition that Netanyahu is leading, I read the coalition agreement between the Likud and the other partners. The peace process was mentioned once in one agreement. It's with the movement led by Tzipi Livni. And it was talking nothing about the terms of the agreement. It was talking about Livni will be in charge of following up the negotiations with the Palestinians under the authority or the supervision of Netanyahu and other ministers.
Can you come to a question, please?
The peace process is not in their minds. If you see the structure of the Israeli government, the partners of Netanyahu are killing any hope for a Palestinian state. So,
so your question is, what's the point in negotiating?
Yes. This is my question.
All right, Muniba Masri.
The point is, I think we also, our patience is running out. We went to 15. First, as I said, I believe in the peaceful resistance. I do, in all kind of resistance. And we should do resistance in every way possible. We should not buy Israeli products. We should not eat the Israeli goods. We shall do everything we can to boycott everything Israelis
And stop working in Israel?
And this is very difficult to say this, but at least the thing that we could do, we should
How much
say,
hardship would that cause if you stop working in Israel?
I didn't say that. It's terrible.
So there are limits. There are limits
There is
to
a
your
limit.
measures.
There is a limit, but I won't say we start with goods that we could buy from somewhere else. They must know as long as they occupy us, we don't have anything to do with them until we have our independence.
Okay.
So for this, let me just continue with this, Tim.
Briefly, because
yes,
there are a lot of
briefly,
questions out there we want to get to.
Briefly, we will resist. We have other alternatives to go to the United Nations and ask to join everything in the United Nations, and we say, United Nations, we did everything we can. Israel cannot respond. That's why we want your protection. United Nations.
Okay, let the questioner come back briefly. Let the questioner come back briefly.
But the agreements that the PLO signed with Israel deprived the Palestinian people from the tools of resistance you are talking about, especially on the economic level.
I was not part of Paris. But now, look, I was very, very, very close to the leadership. I told them what I want, but they said this, and I must respect what the PLO did because I'm part of it.
Okay.
And what I'm trying to do is to learn from the mistakes of what we have done before.
Okay,
so
Munir Al-Masri, thank you very much.
Your question, I think it is very important because what you are pointing to is that the Israeli leadership, the current leadership, the right-wing leadership, is very apathetic towards peace process, towards any, and they are utilizing and using the negotiations just to carry as a cover to carry on with their project as a settler colonialist project. And this is why one of our leadership mistakes, disastrous mistakes, that they are cornering us into one direction, negotiations, 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 while the moment this occupation becomes costly to Israel, now it is on the contrary. Now Israel is benefiting from the occupation at all levels. The moment any occupation in history, the moment the occupation becomes costly, they will consider sitting with the people and negotiating genuine and real negotiations.
So but Dr. Akka, how genuine were the Palestinians in their negotiations?
Actually.
How genuine were they? Wasn't it just a ruse to keep the funds coming in from the donors?
Unfortunately, no. I'll tell you why they were negotiating. They were negotiating because there was a lot of pressure from the American administration and the Europeans. They have their own vested interest in the negotiations.
But if you didn't talk, you didn't get the money, did you?
To hell with the money if this money is only subsidizing the occupation. Because the fact...
It's actually paying the salaries of thousands of members of the Palestinian Authority, isn't it?
This is one of the crimes.
And you say to hell with that money?
I repeat it, because now they have minimized our goal into salaries. What about all aspects of our cause? The settlements, the stealing of land, the arrest, the prisoners. Look what they are doing.
And if you can't afford to pay the salaries, how long do you think the Palestinian Authority would remain in power?
Before the PA came, we were living a decent life. We were proud of the way we were.
So what do you want to do? Disband the PA now?
I think this is one option. This is one option. We have to consider it. But the point is that any occupation in history, the moment they start paying the price for the occupation, they will consider to pull out. At the moment, why the hell they are at ease? They are benefiting. They are on the all level, and they are using the peace process, the so-called peace process, just to cover all their policies and practices.
Okay, Munib Al-Masri, disband the Palestinian Authority. Good idea.
It has its benefit, but I think the downside is more harmful than disbanding.
So you'd keep it. You'd keep it. On balance, you would keep it.
I keep it, but it has to be balance and checks on it all the time, and tell them I agree with a lot of what Mamdouh is saying.
But not only checks and balance. Sorry, the role. Let me be very, very frank. Now, one of the main roles of the PA is the security coordination to crack down on any way of resistance. Look at what happened in the last couple of days. People were not allowed even to demonstrate in support of the hunger strike of our prisoners. So the PA, as of now, it is a net benefit to Israel. It is Even I would dare to say that it is subcontracting the occupation.
You're a human rights supporter, but you don't mention the human rights abuses, constant human rights abuses of the Palestinian Authority, do you?
I would say, and this is our dilemma in the Palestinian Independent Commission for Human Rights and all other human rights, that we have a dual role. We are divided between monitoring the Israeli violations and our PA violations, and this is something, a huge task, unfortunately.
Torture still in the jails, wrongful arrest still being carried out. You know this better than I do.
Yes, and not only this, even the right for expression, the right to express and to express their views is being cracked down on. A few weeks ago.
So what are the chances of putting checks and balances in on the Palestinian Authority, as Munib al-Masri suggests?
There is no
checks
parliament.
And balances,
there is no checks and balances. Look at it. Everything has expired. The parliament has expired. The PA has expired. The presidency has expired. Everything expired, and we are just.
So your point is you're too weak to negotiate with Israel in this position.
Exactly, because you should never negotiate from a weak point. Otherwise, any agreement would be a surrender.
All right. I'm going to take some more questions. Gentleman there. Yes.
Regarding the negotiation, you said that negotiation is a tool, and you are against this. Now, what is the alternative we can go with to successfully achieve our independence? As negotiation is a tool, is not achieve what we want.
What are the methods?
Yeah, what are
the methods by which you can achieve your independence?
Yeah, what alternatively than negotiation?
Yes, thank you. Once there is occupation, the reaction to occupation is to resist. This is the essence of the issue. Occupation, resistance. Now, how to resist? There are many methods. There is armed struggle, there is non-violent methods, there is civil disobedience. This is one item, resistance. It's a must. Nobody can end occupation without resistance. Full stop. This is a given. This is a historic fact. The other thing, what other methods, other tools we can use? There are political tools, one of them negotiations, but as I said earlier, negotiation is an art, is a tool. You should you should know how to use it, when to negotiate, when the time is ripe to negotiate, when not to negotiate, where to negotiate. Now we are negotiating under the complete scrutiny of the Israelis.
But you're assuming a level of sophistication that has never existed in the past and shows no sign of being there now. People are not calculating when is the best time to negotiate, when is not the best time. Negotiations are either open or they're not.
No, I don't agree with this, because there is a movement against occupation, resistance. At one stage, when the time becomes ripe enough, when the occupation realizes that it is no more possible to keep and maintain this occupation, then this is one stage that negotiation can be started. But also negotiations, where to negotiate, because this is an important issue. We are negotiating here in the occupied territories. This is a mistake, because they know everything. They are spying on our phones, on our emails. The other thing, who is the team for negotiations? One of the principles is that you cannot keep the same negotiator for too long. This is a mistake, because the other side, look at the Israelis, how many teams they changed, because the familiarity between the negotiators is a risk. And I believe, I would say it even now, that I wish Saeb Erekat was here. I think
the PLO's chief negotiator.
The chief negotiator for I don't know how many years. I think we Palestinians, we owe him. He should apologize to every single Palestinian for carrying on with these futile negotiations for that long. The other important thing is that the terms of negotiations. Now, unless the Israelis stop and freeze the settlement activities, all activities, we should not step into one day in negotiation. Why?
Okay.
Why?
Munib al-Masri, you agree with that?
Shall I say why?
No, please, let me just ask.
Just one
Okay,
sentence.
all right.
Because if the Israelis have the real intention to withdraw and to end the occupation, why they should put one single stone in the occupied territories?
All right.
So by continuing the settlement activities, it tells a lot that they don't want to withdraw. They don't want to end the
Okay.
occupation. Full stop.
Munib al-Masri, no more negotiations unless the settlements are frozen. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that totally, and I do that if I want.
So
to
you've renounced your side of the debate,
no,
finally.
You've
accepted defeat.
I said I would do this provided there is 3 elements, and the elements are not there. So I will say again, the disobedience. What Gandhi did. If one of you, I will be the second one. To say we want to make this disobedience, then we will win our independence. Believe me, stop buying Israeli goods, we will win our independence. Do what the BDS does, we will win our independence. But not sitting leisurely and doing this. Let's do something to say disobedience.
Okay.
We'll go tomorrow.
Gentleman in the striped shirt, you have a question. Could you stand up, please? Yes, you.
Who decided to go to negotiations? All the political parties in PLO and the civil society and even the political parties, they refused for any further negotiations. But last year, the Palestinian leadership or our president, he went to negotiations. So, and I think ABC and a conflict resolution, just both parties to agree for compromise. The Israelis, after 23 years ago, they refused any compromise.
I'm sorry, what is your question? What is your point?
My questions, who decide in the Palestinian side to go to negotiations? Because both of them, they said that the leadership, which leadership decided to go, even we facing that, all the political parties refused for any further
Who went for the last negotiations, the last round of negotiations?
Last negotiation.
You don't think they should have? You don't think they should have had them?
Yeah, all the political parties, all PLO parties.
So you would have cut off negotiations a long time ago?
Yes.
Yes? Munib al-Masri.
Yeah, well, you have a chance to say, I fire you, you don't represent me. Well, do something. But when we met, we said we will continue. This is the PLO, which we respect. This is the only thing we have, legitimate. But you could say, I don't want it. Go in the streets and you said you don't want it. Done with it. I might be joining you. But I need you to move. You cannot just sit down and talk. You need to move on this thing.
Mamdouh Halaka, the talk should have stopped a long time ago.
Not only this,
You
but
agree?
I think the point he's pointing to is that we have to admit that we have a problem with our decision-making mechanism. There is a problem. And this is why...
With the leadership?
With the leadership and all other aspects. On decisions, on many aspects.
Well, you'll have a vote later in the year. You'll have elections later in the year.
It is overdue. It is overdue. But
So you'll have a chance to change it?
Definitely. But the point is that as long as we have a problem with the decision making, this is one more reason why we should not go to negotiations. We have to put our house into order first.
Okay, lady in the fourth row. Yeah.
Short question to Mr. Masri. Do you really think Israeli people, or between quotations, Jewish, really want this negotiation? And if yes, why?
Do you think that Israeli people really want these negotiations? And if so, why? I mean, you meet with Israeli business leaders. You talk to them regularly.
No, I don't talk. I talk to sometimes.
Sometimes? All right, but you've talked to them. You've talked to them over many years. You've talked to them over many years.
Till today, I did not find a partner. Till now, they don't know us, they don't have the sense. But what I
So why did you keep on talking to them then?
But because the situation like this, because the world is like this, because we don't have enough courage to say we want to go disobedience. I would say to Mamdouh, let's do it tomorrow. Let's do disobedience tomorrow, I will be with you. Let's do it. Disobedience. Say stop negotiations. I want to stop occupation by going to Hungary.
You don't agree with that?
This is not how to run our business. This is not how to run, to really manage our cause. We have a huge task. So we have really to sit and think
Well,
learn the lessons of these 23 years of negotiations. This is one thing. The other thing is that addressing the Israeli public is very important. The Algerians did it, the Vietnamese did it, but how to address it? We should not beg them. Now I agree with you, the overwhelming majority, they have nothing to do with peace. They don't want peace. Because, why? As I said before, because occupation is not costing them anything. They are not feeling the burden of occupation. The moment we make them pay for the occupation. Look what happened during the first Intifada. With the first Intifada, when they saw the impact of the Intifada on the international arena, and they started, maybe 60% they were for withdrawal from the occupied territories. Now they are, as I said, they are benefiting from occupation. Why the hell they should bother about us? But
all right,
if the rule of the game changes, they will change their mind.
All right,
when they say that it is affecting their life, affecting their relations with the world through the BDS, they will reconsider.
Mamdouh Aka, I'm going to take a question from the gentleman in the second row. Yes, you. If you'd stand up, please. We'll get the microphone to you.
A lot of the things that we heard today, have been said before, and we heard enough. But I just
so it's up to you to say something different.
No, exactly. No, but I just for the sake that you're against the motion, Dr. Mamdouh.
Against the motion?
Yeah, you're against negotiations, but for the motion. So you're against negotiations, and for the sake of sharpening what your reasons for being against negotiations. 2 points I have, and one is you've tried to give some alternatives for what can be if the negotiations stop. What alternatives do we have? But we're talking about leverage here. What is our leverage once negotiations stop? So that's one. And then during
let's deal with that one.
But
because he has tried to answer this several times now.
I mean, one quick note, maybe just one very quick note.
Let him answer that question.
This is very important because, as I said, occupation immediately means that we should resist. The essence is to resist. How to resist is very important. And as I said, not necessarily by using arms. You are allowed by international law to use arms. But from our experience, from the environment around us, maybe we should smart enough not to use the arms. Maybe. But this should be well thought of.
What do you mean maybe? Are you advocating violence or not? Which is
resistance does not, we cannot equate resistance by violence.
Well, are you advocating it or ruling it out? Which is it?
I cannot rule it out because most of national liberation movements at one stage, they used armed struggle. In our case, we used it. But unfortunately, it failed for many reasons, internal reasons and external reasons. With the first Intifada, we were smart enough to use different method, and it was effective. Other people in history, they used other non-violent methods, and it was effective.
So you're not ruling out violence?
I rule out violence, because violence means attacking civilians. I'm not, but when you are daily faced by the Israeli army and settlers' violence, what shall we do? I should kick them. I should spit on them. I should do all the means. But at the end of the day, I want to end this occupation. I want to have my country liberated. I should use my brain and see, is there other methods more effective? More effective? I said
that's exactly what I was asking. What leverage? Yes. Give us those methods.
Yes.
That's exactly the blurry,
yes.
Blurry side of what you were suggesting.
This should be our daily concern. Civil disobedience, confronting the Israeli army, confronting the settlers, not necessarily.
What does it mean, confronting the army?
Facing them, not necessarily by arms. I should stop them from uprooting the trees. I should stop them from burning the trees. I should stop them from demolishing houses.
How?
I should challenge.
How?
Even by bare breast. This is one thing. The other thing, on the international arena, we have to use the international law on daily basis and all aspects, because it's not just sporadically we pick up and hesitantly resort to international law. We should hold Israel accountable for all its crimes, on the daily crimes, the daily violations of our human rights and international law. And again, we should mobilize and we should officially adopt BDS, because it is very obvious now the BDS is gaining momentum. It is hurting Israel, mobilizing a lot of support and solidarity all over the world. And by divestment, again, this is economically affecting them. And by the one thing that it did not come to yet is the sanctions. I think it should come. By this way, you mobilize, and the South African model was very, very helpful. If it were not for this boycott and for the sanctions,
okay, but all the things you've been talking about have not so far changed Israel's mind, have they?
Because
the boycott, the divestments, the sanctions.
It is just beginning. And this is what I'm calling for.
So this is what you are putting your faith in now?
Yes, definitely. Because the BDS, it is a strategy, full-fledged strategy. You have to adopt it, and officially, it should be an official policy for our leadership.
All right, okay. There are a lot of people and we're running out of time, so I'm going to take a question from the gentleman in the front row. Thank you.
I have two questions.
No, just one, please.
One for negotiators, one for non-negotiators.
Just one question. Just one question. Sorry, everybody just gets one question.
My question is, are we strong enough, are we skilled enough to negotiate? We've witnessed Hamas and Fatah negotiating for 7 years, and we still don't trust the outcome. So how much can we, based on our current situation on the Palestinian area, how much can we negotiate, or how far can we negotiate with Israel? And the time frame, you've been calling for the time frame.
Let me just have him answer that question. Are Palestinians strong enough or skilled enough to negotiate?
We are strong enough if we show that the masses of people are. This is silent majority. You are not doing anything. Disobedience. If I take this crowd here and I'll go every day with 200, 300, 400, 500 people every day, then we will have.
So what are you going to do about it? You personally, what are you going to do about it? If this is what you're advocating,
let me just tell them. When I tell them let's go disobedience, we can go every day in the middle of the town, and you say 5,000, 500 people. We're sitting here. We are telling the whole people that we are going to disobey everything, and it will.
Your own security services would break it up. The Palestinian security services would break it up.
We won't let them do that. We will do everything to let the whole world, the Palestinians will see that we need. This is the thing we need. We stop using slogans. We want to do this and we want to do this. Disobedience, BDS, it really will do the job.
All right. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're running out of time. Before we go to the vote, I would just like to ask each of the speakers to just give the audience one sentence to crystallize your views as to why they should vote for you. One sentence, please. Mahmoud Akka.
Nobody should go to negotiations in a weak position. We should first mobilize our assets and then go. When the time becomes ripe enough, we force the adversary to accept the terms of ending the occupation and give us our freedom. This is the experience of all the national liberation movements.
That's 2 sentences. 2 sentences. Munib al-Masri.
We need to sacrifice. We need to say we will get with it. We want to go and disobey.
All right.
Make the disobedience. This is the only thing. Disobedience and BDS. That's the only 2 things they could do. I will be with you, the first one to be.
All right. Okay. No, you've had 4 or 5 sentences now. Thank you very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to vote on the motion for now. Peace talks with Israel are pointless. You have voting cards. If you support that view that the negotiations are pointless, please put a tick in the top box. If you are against that view and you think there is a point to continuing to negotiate, would you tick the bottom box there? If you would fill in that on your voting cards, they'll be collected from you in a moment, and I should have the result for you in a couple of minutes. Let me just remind you that this debate is going to be shown on our website, www.newarabdebates.com, also on Deutsche Welle TV worldwide, with its array of partner stations. So do please have a look at the debate once it appears and send us your views, your observations and opinions. We're always glad to hear from you. Okay, all right. Ladies and gentlemen, the results are in. 66% are for the motion that talks are pointless. 34% are against it. Just to point out the way you voted before the debate, at that point it was 60% for the motion and 40% against. So those for the motion, Mamdouh Akka, you picked up another 6% in the course of the debate. So all that remains for me to do is to thank our two distinguished speakers. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you to you, the audience, for your participation and your questions. The New Arab Debates will be back again, hopefully, in a few months' time. Till then, from all of us on the program, have a safe journey home. Good night. Thanks for coming. Good night.